So the 2025 WNBA season wasn't stellar necessarily for a number of reasons. Obviously, a lot of injuries played into that. Now we'll see what happens after the fact. Nonetheless, congratulations to the Las Vegas Aces, who go from a team that looked like they should be written off to a dynasty in the midst of the same season. Part of that was going through the Indiana Fever. And when you get to the end of the season, people like to look forward, but you can look back to look forward a little bit. And it's not a moral victory necessarily for the Fever because it doesn't count for anything, but it certainly was impressive what they were able to do going to overtime with the Aces in a game 5 while the Mercury were swept out of the finals by Las Vegas once they got there. So, a big stark contrast in the competitiveness between those two series. Those two things don't always carry over. Those kind of things don't always carry over from one season to the next. That the Fever had a special chemistry, but at the same time, it stands to reason that they should be significantly better next season when they are indeed healthy. And when this season ended, they looked like the second best team, perhaps. But by the way it went down, now of course the Lynx also got injured, so that threw a whole monkey wrench into the mix with what happened to Nafisa Collier in that series. But as soon as the season ends, you start to see the odds come out for the next season. So when it comes to the favorites and the betting markets, the Lynx opened at ESPN Bet. Of course, they're promoting their own service with the best odds. But they weren't the best across the board. The Aces at BetMGM were favored at plus 300. The Lynx at plus 225 on ESPN Bet. And then according to like FanDuel, they were the top team at plus 350. High on the boards, as it reads here, are the Indiana Fever, who are tied with the Aces for the second best odds on ESPN Bet. And I would imagine the Fever across the board are pretty good, pretty high up the list because they'll be getting Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham back, making, they're also a liability for sports books, as it says there, because they're popular and a lot of folks are going to bet on them. But, the same website, ESPN, posts the way too early power rankings for next season, which they had ready to go. Credit to them for that. I'm not mad at that. Capitalizing on the moment. It was obviously pre-written, pre-done, ready to be dropped whenever the championship happened. But the Fever are fifth in those power rankings. Fourth are the Lynx, third are the Dream, second are the Mercury, first are the Aces. Michael Vopel writes this one. And look, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm not really sure the logic to the Fever being fifth. They beat the Dream. While they were injury riddled, they eliminated the Atlanta Dream from the playoffs. They took the Aces to the distance, which the Mercury were unable to do. And of all those teams on the list, it's fine to put the Aces in front of them since they won the title. It's fine, I suppose, to put the Lynx in front of them because the Lynx are, had a great record in the regular season and things just didn't pan out for them in the playoffs. But beyond that, I mean, the Liberty, there was a lot of fluctuation in where they rank. But I don't really see the logic because how many of those teams can you expect to be as much better as you can expect the Fever to be next season? Because I think people forget how good Caitlin Clark is because she was out. It certainly seems that way. And folks are trying to use, an injury-riddled campaign or some shooting struggles when she was playing hurt against her to rub it in based on her popularity. But they're getting a transcendent generational talent back. A player who is the greatest offensive engine the sport has ever seen back, right? They're getting Sophie Cunningham, most likely, assuming she stays back. But that's the other thing. There are so many unknowns when it comes to free agency because the entire league is basically a free agent. And the Fever have more knowns in that case than anybody else because Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston are still on the deals that keep them under contract with the Fever. So you've got CC and AB locked up. There ain't another team out there that has that kind of talent locked up. A lot of these teams, they know these players are coming back or these players have already committed and it's just kind of a formality. But nonetheless, it's a guarantee when it comes to the Indiana Fever. Kelsey Mitchell will be a free agent and it's important for them to re-sign her. But after the season that she had, it's really hard to imagine Kelsey deciding to leave. Lexi Hull's a restricted free agent. She has spoken so highly of the Fever, and she seems like a core member of their team for what she can bring. Sophie Cunningham said she would explore other opportunities, but obviously she's seen her star power rise with the Fever and fits into that mix. Now there's the unknowns of the CBA, there's the unknowns of the expansion draft, and again, there's the unknowns of free agency. But when you take into what is known, that the Fever played their damn tail off, that they were super well coached, that they have superstars, and that they are going to be healthier next season than they were this season. Number 5 has me scratching my head a little bit. That one has me scratching my head a little bit because I do believe with a healthy Caitlin Clark, the Fever win the championship this year. I can't prove that. You can say whatever you want about me, obviously, but the way that they were playing in that stretch, even when she was a little limited when she came back in one of those spurts, they had the game against the Dream and the Wings, and they were just putting points on the board. I'm not really sure how you stop them with CC and Kelsey and AB surrounded by better talent than they were when Clark was a rookie. Now, that takes nothing away from what anybody did do, because what the Aces did do is win the championship. And what the Aces are is a dynasty. And Asia Wilson cemented herself, and Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray, that big three that they have. And Becky Hammond is one of the greatest coaches. None of this is meant to take any credit away from what they did. But we all saw the Fever hang with them. We all saw the Fever take them the distance, no matter how many bodies were out. And we all know the Fever are going to be more formidable, at least from a talent standpoint, next season. That is a guarantee based on being healthy. It's a guarantee. They don't have to do anything to the roster. It's a guarantee based on being healthy. So if they can improve the roster at all, I'm not so sure, why they're not considered the favorites. Again, reasonable case to be made for the Aces, the defending champs. Respect. Tip the cap. Fine. Reasonable case to be made for the Minnesota Lynx when you look at what they did this year in the regular season and the talent they still have on the team. Outside of that, I don't really see a case. You could make the ceiling case for the Liberty, but not from what we just saw. And I mean, when you're talking ceiling, I'm not so sure that anybody's is higher than the Indiana Fevers. Now, that's a ways away. 2026 season feels like a long time from now, to be quite frank at this point. But you have to feel good about what the Indiana Fever did. You can think about what could have been, but you can also think about what could be to come.